You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in kind of hazy, gloomy, sunny, rainy Northport, Florida. Just keep in mind, I do this as a reminder each and every time. Please, 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 it's Friday night. Let's not drive excessively fast. I know that 75 is the Indy 500, but slow down, relax, get home safe, and let everybody else do the same. I've got two extremely nice, valuable people in the house today. I want to first start off by saying I've had great pleasure being part of Jill Luke's life here in Northport. Knew her right from the minute she moved into town. Unbelievable person. I wish I had, well, I think between the two of us, we probably have the Energizer Bunny rabbit beat on battery life. But, when someone gives their all, Jill Luke's name is right next to that definition. And I appreciate everything that you do, everything that you did. I hope that there's more of you to come in our future. And I know that in talking with you, there's some valuable time that you need to spend with a certain person that I'm positive you're going to have a great influence on that situation, and it's going to be a positive one. There's no way it's not going to be because of the person you are. So I would like to first off thank you and introduce Commissioner Jill Luke on the show for the last time, hopefully on the air. But Jill, welcome to the show. And Phil, just hang in there, buddy. We'll get right to you, okay?
Not a problem.
John, thank you so very much. I think I can speak for you and me. We're just who we are. And we don't put on anything or do anything that isn't ourselves. We have a genuine heart for people and for our community, our businesses, our kids that go to school, the students. It's there within us. And so I'm just hoping that I'm leaving some part of myself, within the community because of being able to be myself while I was in office.
And you know what? You've added a flair to the position. You've made it your own for sure. The ability that you had to go out tirelessly from early morning to late evening. They once said commissioner's a part-time job. I never believed that the minute that someone said that to me, and you turned it into 4 full-time jobs because of your activity level. There wasn't anybody in this town that if they were in an event, you weren't at it. There's something to be said about that style of give back. And not everybody's going to be able to do what you did. And so the mark is not realistic, but the mark is genuine and heartfelt by a lot of people in our city and surrounding counties. There, you've made an impact across the board because of your participation, and really, I would say even the on the job training that you went through. And I'm kind of glad that we're talking jointly with this right now, because Phil is, you know, blessed to have someone like you to kind of transition um, him into the position.
Well,
And
we are blessed because he even wanted to step forward. And he's very similar to me in some of those ways. He cares about his community. He wants it to be united. He wants to be hands-on. He learned what campaigning is, and that's not him the same way as it's not me. But being that public servant is. And that is where Phil is at. So I'm grateful that, especially stepping into my seat, it's somebody that's going to carry on that same type of legacy within the community. So I'm grateful for meeting him. And yeah, I will never forget that day, Phil, or that night.
Either will I. That fateful night.
Yeah. So this guy walks up to me. He was attending the fundraiser for the art center at Plantation, and we wore costumes. So this guy walks up to me with a bandage on his head. I didn't know if he was in character, or if he'd actually wounded himself that day. And he starts talking about, being a commissioner. And I definitely opened my door, said, please come, especially knowing that he was coming from Welland Park and specifically from Grand Paradiso. So that was the beginning, was the bandage.
absolutely.
Right.
So
I
I
still
want
have
to
the
ask you.
picture.
Go ahead.
I still have the picture of the bandage on my head with the paintbrush in my hand, painting my little piece of that outside portrait outside the room at Plantation. That wasn't
So
easy.
I'd like to take a couple minutes and tell people online right now. I've put a couple things up. I've got to believe that somewhere along the line, you know what the butterfly is from Mr. Chuck English. Do you know what the butterfly is, Joe?
He calls me the social butterfly. And so he will oftentimes use that butterfly representing me. And Chuck and I, friendship grew over the 5 years that I've been here. And I appreciate him and the history that he has brought to me through me. And so, yes, sir.
If you've got something that you want to say to Jill or even to Phil, I promise you I will pull it up. So type away. Really just keep things upbeat. That was a tight race that you've gone through. I know that they're still counting right now. Phil, how does it feel to be in, out, and in turmoil at the same time?
There's no real turmoil. I think our particular race is finished. The certification process with all the new rules over the last couple of years necessitate reviewing and dotting all the I's and T's for all the elections. And some of them, I think even up to a night or so ago, still hadn't been finalized in the county areas. So I said, my race is done in the last 2 days. I think there's been a change of about 20 or 30 votes, some odd, increased in my favor. But at 500, nothing's going to change. I don't believe in the results, and it's just a matter of waiting out the process until the final certification. And what they say is, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So
That
what
is
you got to
true.
win is by one.
Well, and I want to ask you a couple questions because Jill didn't have, I don't believe we went through this because I've only been at this about 4 years, but you might have because you kind of sat in a different seat differently than most. Um, but the transition, I actually might have talked to you about this when you first got in. So I'm going to ask you, Phil, the fight that you went through during the election cycle, and I don't, fight is not a good word because I hate the election cycles the way they are right now because there's just so much bad information floating out there about people, and then there's also the criticisms of groups. But I would, tell me how it feels to have, I think, gone through a gauntlet that most people wouldn't volunteer to go through.
Well, the reality is I didn't throw my hat in the ring to be a politician, that's for sure. It was for the purpose of public service, to serve the community, serve the people of Northport. Uh, Politics is a miserable business in my book. Um, it's nasty and it's vicious at times. This is a nonpartisan race, yet you can never get the politics out of any race. And misinformation, lies, I guess it's just part of the nature of the beast. It is truly no wonder why so few people ever want to participate in this process. And the higher up you go in the election process, up through county, state, and federal, the worse it gets in my book. It's no wonder there's so many NPAs out there because, quite frankly, it's a distasteful process. I'm delighted and relieved that it's over and that I had focused on going to work, which is what I wanted to do from the beginning. I didn't get in this race to wage a competition. I really didn't. I want to serve the city, and I intend to serve the city. And whether or not I had won or not, I would have continued to serve the city. So that's who I am.
Well, I do have a question and some congratulations from Chuck, but he wants to know if you can define the difference between resiliency and sustainability.
Well, I think resiliency is the ability to withstand. There's some overlap, I think, in the definitions, but to hold up under as opposed to sustain and maintain over time. Not sure what the context is of his question, but
I see it basically the same way. Sustainability has a flair of maintaining to it, and resiliency is generally forecasting for the future or preparing for the future. So I see it the same way. They do have that overlap. A lot of people intermingle the terminology, but usually resiliency is building toward being able to sustain. Resiliency takes you to the sustainability.
And let me say something, because the truth of the matter is, Chuck English, he did catch you flat-footed because we weren't ready for these. But here's what I love, and I'm going to go back to the very first show that I did with you. When you got done with that show, you went through the gauntlet. There were no easy questions, and yet you answered them. And I believe what you said was those were difficult questions. I had to think about them. But you didn't shuck them off. You went right at them, and you continue to do that same thing right now. And I think that's the resiliency that you're going to provide, is that you're going to be relentless at answering the questions. And if you don't have the answers, I think you're going to spend the time to do what?
Go find them.
He does, and that's what he does. After that show, he and I had several conversations for him to learn the backup, the history of what is going on. And he has done that. I mean, for the last 6 months, maybe even 7 months, he has been in every meeting, every workshop. We converse constantly so that he learns the material. He knows what's in the background. He is stepping in with more education and more ability than any other candidate I have ever seen. He's prepped.
And there's something to be said for that. And I'm gonna say something about your opponent too, because he went through the show too. And I really appreciated the fact that both of you felt the need to be on the show and to get your representation out. 4 years that I've been doing this, I would have loved to have held a debate, and I look forward to do that in the future. Sort of the timeline didn't play out the way I wanted it to because the hurricane and different things like that happened. But what I'd like to say to both of you is that while there is a lot of fluff that happens out there in some Q&As and they're easy to get away from, that doesn't happen on this show. And Jill's been part of the show. She's been part of the fluff. She's also been part of the tough questions. I know that Barbara Langdon was on, and Barbara Langdon towards the end of the show said, "I can't believe this is getting more difficult, John. These questions are getting harder." But she answered them.
Well,
And so did
anything
you.
that makes you think, anything that makes you dig in to get more understanding so you can come up with the best solution is great.
And Phil, with that being said, all of the things that you're learning about now that preemptively you were doing, where does that separate you from where you were, say, 3 months ago to now?
Well, I don't think there's any major surprises. I think that there's, it's an ongoing evolution of understanding. Things are the way they are for reasons. There are processes, there's methodologies, there's a way in which things are done in government. Most people don't have a clear understanding of how many obstacles the rules and the laws and the statutes put in front of you. And for many people, you say, God darn, why don't these people just make a decision, do this, do that? And it's a process every inch of the way. I think that's probably the learning curve. The issues themselves, I think they've just become more refined. I mean, the goals, the direction, the things I heard from people all through this election process, I think it's crystallized, most of which I already knew, and certainly the existing commissioners and city management know. Our priorities are what they are. We need to clean up our infrastructure. We need to build back stronger. We have challenges ahead of us, but they're things that, are not huge surprises. They're just processes that take time, they take effort, they take money, and it's a matter of digging in and working in a collaborative fashion. This commission, up until this time, has worked together, pulling in the same direction. I believe going forward with me sitting on that commission, it will continue to do so. We see the vision for this city the same. We want to grow it. We want to broaden the base so we can lower taxes for our residential homeowners, bring jobs to the city, expand our city, and help manage this growth in an intelligent, strategic fashion. And to deal with the storm of, if anything, this storm taught us how it is to fix our infrastructure and rebuild our infrastructure. And for all the years that it's taken us to get to some of these projects like Price Boulevard, it's time to bite the bullet, get it done, We have the tools in place. We have the resources. We have the intelligence. We have the plan. It's just one step at a time and getting it done. And people have to understand it takes patience. It really does. You just can't wave a wand and the next day these problems are fixed. So I don't think there's any big.
That's one of the largest learning curves that there is going into an elected position, especially if you're coming out of business. You're used to things going quicker. And that was one of the things that I had to learn after going into office, that actually it's better that you're taking your time, because I saw some missteps happen because they went after that first bite of the apple and then found out it wasn't the right direction. So after taking a little more time, looking into it more, then you come up with the right decision, because it's never about making the decision for the loudest voice or one section or sector of the community. It's for the community at large. And I saw some of those missteps happen because of one incident. And so they made a policy or they did something, and then it damaged so much more, and it had to be undone. So some of this process that bogs you down really ends up being a good thing.
What are some of the things that, Jill, you want or have told Phil that and
Run.
run. I love that answer. It's a great answer, but
No, I didn't
so
tell
many
him that.
times I've seen you run into the fire,
Yeah.
not away from the fire, and now you're kind of getting the ability to run away from the fire a little bit. But what is it that you would tell him or have told him about how to start his journey as a city commissioner, and possibly inspire other people to get involved? As much as we want to not talk, about the election, Victor, I'm glad he ran. We had a really good, high quality person at least run. Not that nobody's qualified, but the fact that we've had people stepping in, to at least challenge each other. This wouldn't have been a race if it wouldn't have been for both of these guys stepping up, because if only one of them would have done it, they're a victor. No pun intended, Victor, if you're listening. But it's how do you inspire the person in Phil, and what is the direction that you would tell him to go?
Pretty much that's easy, and he's already addressed it. After meeting him with the bandage on his head, we met in my office and we were there for hours. And I articulated clearly that the office of an elected official is one of public servanthood. You're a public servant. This isn't a power thing. This isn't a control thing. This isn't a political thing. This is nonpartisan. We don't have platforms. We fix what is needed and necessary within the city, period.
Not for private agenda.
Exactly. And so that is what I pushed to him right from the start. But that's who he is too. He is that public servant. So basically I was just enforcing or encouraging who he is.
And
I told him it was going to get lighter after the campaign. I warned him the campaign would be rough. He had the roughest campaign of anybody, of any race that I have seen, even our firefighters, because he had the support of both the police and the fire unions. Yep. And asked me also. They go out, the fire department goes out and helps people. They stated, we have never seen an election like this. There were people who don't like him out in his HOA who came to heckle him, trying to get him to lose his temper, to make a scene, to become unruly, and he did not. He sat in his chair allowed them to blow over the top of him. And I'm very proud of him because that's what campaign does. I mean, I had opponents who violated campaign rules. I know one who violated 4. I never turned them in, but there was probably more than 4 violations, definitely, within the battle that he had. And I will call it a battle because you're trying to hang on to your sanity. You're trying to hang on to truth. And when somebody lies about you, lies about themselves, lies about the issues, doesn't even fully know what the issues are, they're not up to date on them, where Phil was. Phil was up to date. He knew what the agendas were. He knew what was being discussed. And I filled him in on the history so that he had a round circle of information to make decisions and to come to conclusions. Does that mean that he and I agree on everything? No, I don't agree with everything, with all people. But that's the beauty of 5 people on a commission. You got all those voices coming from different backgrounds, different personalities, and it takes you to a higher level of an outcome.
And I'm going to stick with you for a second. The people when they're leaving office, their availability is out there for Victor and Phil both to sit down and get educated. Was that pretty equal across the board as far as that time frame of what you would consider both candidates? Were they both readily available to sit down with you or asking to sit down? And
Phil is the only one who approached me.
Okay.
He was the only one that was interested in gaining the knowledge of the agendas and everything that was going on.
And it wasn't just Jill that I reached out
Correct.
to. As a citizen, you have the opportunity. Your government, your elected officials, and the city staff is available to the public. And I reached out in all those cases. Go into every meeting and every workshop. You have the opportunity to meet people. When 3 or 4 people are all that show up time after time after time, they get to know those couple of people. And it's an opportunity to speak with people about different things, ask questions, learn, try to understand. And I have to say, all 5 commissioners, city manager, assistant city manager, staff people, I have hopefully conducted myself over the past 6 to 8 months as if I was a commissioner in training. I participated in as much as I could, spoke out when I thought it was appropriate at meetings and workshops. And I would have done that and will continue to do it as an elected official. And after I've served my term, if I'm still alive and walking. And, I think that that's something that people who genuinely care about their community should do. And I get it. People are busy. They work. They have other interests. I was retired. I made a decision to do this. But there are a lot of people out there who play keyboard quarterback, who basically look at what goes on around them in the world and have plenty of opinions, but never really dig deep enough to discern the facts and the realities of how things are and how decisions are made. And that's the kind of guy I am. I'm a sponge for information. Everything I hear and learn, I want to learn more about. And I think that's what it takes, because this job, I have to tell you, is all consuming. There is so much to learn.
And I'll say this because I've done it with Jill. I've done it with exit strategies with commissioners who are leaving, asking them what people should do to run. I like to have this post breakdown of how things developed within a campaign. There's something to be said about envisioning yourself in what you're running for. That's kind of what it sounds like to me, is that you had already envisioned yourself there. So you were putting yourself into place. And if that were something that you could tell the next person who's going to run, that's why I ask these questions, is that
Well,
hopefully somebody out there who is interested in running is looking to see what is the right way to run a campaign. What is
you
the
know
right
what?
way to get yourself out?
I really think, John, the truth of the matter is, if you're running to win, it's the wrong reason. From the time I started attending meetings and getting involved in the city, it was because I wanted to somehow make a difference and help. Whether I had won or not, I wouldn't have stopped serving the city. Believe me, there's opportunity to serve, whether as a paid employee, whether as a volunteer on advisory boards, whether it's as an elected official. If you want to serve, if you want to help make things better in this world, you find a way to do it. So if you run for office because your goal is to win or to beat the other person or to further a personal agenda, you're doing it for the wrong reason. So I would tell people out there, if what your interest is to serve and make things better for the people who live in your community, then find a way. There's a litany. Every meeting I go to, up on the screen comes a list of every advisory board position that's open. There are dozens of them. They're not filled. People don't attend. Nobody fills that chamber to come and listen. Yet, when something affects their pocketbook or affects their lifestyle, they're up in arms. Well, by God, make a difference. This world is not about complaining and criticizing and taking your marbles and going elsewhere when you're not happy with the way things are. It's digging in, it's working with the people who make decisions, who are part of the process, and helping things to become better. That's why I ran. And that's what I would tell anyone who's interested. Don't do it for the wrong reasons. You got to do it for right, because it is a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. It isn't for the money, that's for sure. And the bottom line is you have to have a love for it. You have to enjoy that whatever you do, you hope to believe is going to create value added to your city and to the citizens. And I mean, that's the reward in itself. It truly is. It is not about yourself. If it is, you're running for the wrong reason. And I hate to say it, but our government from the top on down is filled with people who do it for the wrong reasons.
And I'm going to stick with you for a second, Phil, and because I'm gonna go backwards with Jill on this question, because I know what she did. But what is it going to take from you to build the bridges with the people who voted against you? Because with I, I wouldn't say a sounding result, I would just say a great voter outturn for both candidates made this competition what it was. Okay, but what is it going to take? What have you heard on the streets and through conversations with the citizens? What is it going
Well,
to take to build that relationship back?
well, here's what's interesting. You talk about building a relationship back. I won in every single precinct except one. Interestingly enough, the Welland Park precinct. There, I lost, and predominantly it revolved around the issue of de-annexation, which my opponent continued to say was not an issue in this race. And the reality is, it was all about that. While neither one of us may get the opportunity to vote up or down on that issue, the issue of uniting Northport, of pulling people together as opposed to dividing, is the issue in this race and was the issue. I saw myself as the unity candidate and he as the candidate of division. because no matter how you cut it, a big chunk of Welland Park has this mindset, whether it was because they were sold a bill of goods by their salespeople. I don't know, but I can tell you this. Northport opened its arms to Welland Park. The collaboration, as I've said in the last 2 times I've been on your show, that collaboration between developer and the city brought about Welland Park. None of the folks living in these gated communities would live in their piece of paradise without the collaboration of those two parties. So you ask me, how do you unite this? How do you bring this together? Well, the truth is, very shortly, downtown Welland Park will be built out. I envision all kinds of activities that draw people from downtown Northport, from other parts of our city into Welland Park. I also see, as the first elected commissioner from Welland Park, the opportunity to use that pulpit to share all that Northport has to offer to the folks in Welland Park. There are that vocal group who will not be happy no matter what occurs, and they will have to make a decision whether or not to just settle down, be a part of the city, or whether to relocate themselves, and some have. But for the vast majority of Welland Park, there is so much more opportunity as part of the city of Northport, and no one's ever educated them on it. No one's ever made them aware of it, because all they heard for the past 3 years was how they got screwed, basically, when they bought here and fooled into believing they were in Venice. That is not Northport's fault. I mean, you can't miss the pillars that say welcome to Northport. But I think that it's a distortion. So many people, because of the loud vocal efforts of a few, really have left many people in Welland Park with misunderstandings. There is over half of Welland Park yet to be sold out. And I will tell you this, over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, those people will hear both sides of this story. So my guess is, over the next handful of years, as the rest of Welland Park gets inhabited and built out over in the Playmore area, you're going to see that integration much more effectively than you did during the past 4 or 5. I think nature will take care of itself. I believe that as people see me represent not just the people of Welland Park, but all of Northport, we are a city united, and people need to appreciate that. You can pick and choose where you want to live. No one forces anyone to live anywhere. But by God, this city's a proud city, and there's a lot to be said for saying, I live in Northport.
And I'm going to add something real quick, because there's a factor in what you just said that's all true. But I'll add one caveat to Welland Park, West Villages, and the make-believe thought process. We voted, myself and my wife are 2 of those votes,
There you go.
well before those houses were built, to bring that to our community. If you want to understand why the rest of the city is angry with a sliver of the pie who thinks they can do whatever they want to, they can belittle the town, they can do all these things because they just got here and they just don't like it. And yes, I will absolutely tell you flat out, 100% lied, 100%. I can say that. I sat in those rooms. I also educated my customers before they went into those rooms that that was what's going to happen. Okay? Because you only have to sit through one meeting at one time to listen and realize, as a realtor who has a code of ethics to follow, I'm not going to mislead my customers.
That's right.
Salespeople don't have a code of ethics. They work for the builder.
That is
They can
correct.
say and do whatever they want to do. And if you don't do your own research, shame on you.
But
The
I'll tell
funny
you,
thing, go ahead.
yeah,
Let me finish real quick
go ahead.
because this is a huge problem with me. Because if you're that lazy that you didn't figure out where you lived before you purchased, don't
Shame.
try to leave the city that is not just going at it, but they're going at it hard. They're talking about your community nonstop. It is relentless. It is a community that's being built from ground up. There isn't old buildings there. You're getting all brand new stuff. In 10 years, it's going to be amazing, but you're going to need new buildings at that point because those will be 10 years old. And then you'll be compared to the rest of our city when you're 10 years old, believe it or not. But for people who are listening right now and have been shoveled a pile of crap, your appraisal will never go on the other side of River Road. So the bullcrap that they fed you about your property values are going to drop because you put the city of Northport on your envelope. I just want to show you how childish you actually are in believing that, because right now you actually live in the city of Northport. Everyone knows you live in the city of Northport, and your property values have not gone down.
That's right.
And you're still writing the city of Venice and taking pride in a fictitious, unfactual fact in your mind.
Well,
Put the city of Northport on, put Santa Claus, Florida. You're still going to get delivered with your address and your zip code. Go ahead, Joe.
What I would like to see to put that to bed, just tell them that they can call themselves whatever they want to on the envelope. They can say Welland Park. I mean, that is Welland Park that they live in. So they could put Welland Park on it. They're still in the city of Northport. They still do not belong to the city of Venice or even the unincorporated portion of Venice, which that's what the old zip code was. But the envelope will arrive where it needs to go, no matter what city name you put. So they could actually put the name of the improvement district, Welland Park, and settle it.
you know, though, to keep it in perspective, and I think it's important to do this, remember, you see examples of it everywhere in this country and the world. A small group of extremely vocal people can sway many, many people. You can fool all of the people some of the time. And the reality is that living here in Welland Park, there is a good percentage of folks who are not and do not want to really leave the city of Northport. They are influenced by only the information they've been given.
Right.
And they only hear and know what they've been told. There has not been an effective marketing effort on a regular basis to the new folks that have lived here to show them how they are part of this city. And that'll be certainly something I think many other parties will focus on going forward. There's a lot of people in this city who love living in Welland Park, who frequent Northport, who don't see the distinction. I'll be honest, when I moved here, I didn't even know what West Villages was or Welland Park. I identified the city of Northport as a place that made sense to live because it was affordable, more so than Venice or Sarasota. It wasn't as congested. It was in proximity to where I wanted to live. I looked at a number of communities within the city of Northport and settled on Gran Paradiso It was really came down to between Island Walk and here. And I knew I was going to be in a gated community. I knew I would have CDDs. I understood most of these issues, but I really didn't understand what Welland Park was or its predecessor, West Villages. That wasn't what I bought into. And I think many people feel that same way. And the problem is that we're all products of the information we receive. And I do believe that over time, this issue just settles out and people will come to be comfortable with who and what they are and where they live. Those that really can't get over it, well, most likely those people will leave. And there were a few who frequented early voting who are actually in the process of moving out of Welland Park or out of the West Villages, so.
Jill, you got something to add?
I do. We were advised legally during this past 3 years while this de-annexation was in court and everything that we really couldn't do a lot of marketing, education, and stuff like that. We had to stay quiet to protect the city. That is over. It is not in the courts anymore. Now is the time to seize the educational aspect and get out there and bridge that gap. They have all sorts of negative, untruthful things being spread out there. We need to tell what the truth is, what the reality is that needs to be told. And now's the time to do it. And we've got a mouthpiece out there so that if people really are interested in the truth, they can go to their representative right there in their, in their community and ask, is this the truth?
And Allison has something that she wants you to read out.
Okay.
I guess it's what she said right here.
Yeah, I blew her a kiss.
That kiss wasn't for me, Allison.
No, that kiss was for you, Allison. Thank you so very much for chiming in. It's appreciated. Appreciate everything you do.
And I'm going to say something else because we, I run the Northport Buckeyes, and we've been given food and underwear. Awaken Church has done an amazing job getting help, food, assistance. Not just recent. They have been doing this
11 years.
Yeah, I mean, amazing group of people. Kudos goes out to Awaken Church and the staff, the people who donate all their time. I know Jill has been there. I know that Debbie McDowell has been a stable hold on giving bags out, and I've gone over it. Barbara Langdon has been there. Just people are doing great things. I keep saying this over and over again during this past hurricane. There are lots of people doing many, many great things. And I think when you look at the great things that are happening, and it is not about you, it's about people, it's about your town, it's about survival. That is exactly what Awaken Church is representing on Fridays when they do their food drives. It's what they do constantly throughout the week. So, Allison, please deliver to Larry and his crew and to Pastor. You guys are much appreciated, very valuable to our community, and keep the good work up. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
And John, being in the position that I'm in and known throughout the region and even beyond, I had people from out of state reach out to me. We want to do this. We want to do that. We've got a semi. Who can we link to? The Awaken Pantry, Awaken Church is where I fed them. The recovery was just way too strong for the city to take anything on like that. They had to deal with recovery. But that serve team that Awaken has such a servant's heart and their mission is to serve the people. I pointed everybody who contact me to them. They've got the resources, they've got the marketing, they've got the name. Get in touch with them and they'll help you. And they do every time.
Phil, what is it going to take for the city of Northport to envision some things that have to change? And I'm going to start one with Price Boulevard. There's no doubt in my mind it has to change. And then I want to lead into Warm Willow Springs because we have to provide some attention there also. But what's your thoughts there?
Fortunately, the citizens supported the two referendums that were essential to really get Price finally underway. The referendum to extend the surtax, the penny surtax, and to allow us to go out and secure the bonds necessary to front the money to do Price to be paid back by surtax. That's been approved by the citizens. I would say it's probably, again, without, not that I want to speak for city management, but I would say for everybody, it's probably the highest infrastructure priority right now. I'd love to see this thing launched so that in the very near future, you see the bond offering out there. That is a process as well. It takes a little time. And I think that, within a year or so, you're going to see some actual activity. I haven't been involved in the banking community. I mean, I know it takes a little period of time to issue bonds, but the plan is there. That needs to get going. And then it was interesting this past week attending a workshop where numerous federal agencies came along with representatives from all the 4 counties surrounding us and listened to the opportunities to build back that federal dollars that are available. I do believe the city will be reaching out and trying to secure some of those dollars. And I think not just Price, but our waterways, our other areas of infrastructure that we found were tested by this storm, and need addressing and have needed addressing, will be focused on. I think it's just a critical area. I think there has to be a continual focus on it. It is not by any means a short-term fix, but you have to start the process. You can't kick the can down the road forever because all that happens is costs increase, double, triple over the years. But we have to start moving forward there. Mineral Springs, there is a plan in place. The first step is get it open. There are thousands of people want to enjoy the springs. We need to get it safe. We need to make sure the water's okay. We need to clean up the debris. And all that's being worked on by city management and staff. Once we can reopen, people can start enjoying it. Then there's a plan in place. And the P3 for that development, I believe, will move forward in as reasonably an expeditious way as these things happen. They do take time, but I will tell you this, and it was an issue within the campaign with my opponent who stated Mineral Springs is a black hole. We should sell it off and get rid of it. Well, by God, if I have anything to say, no one's ever going to sell off 80 acres of our city. I talked to countless people from the Mineral Springs area who came to vote at Biscayne and spoke to them about this. And they want their springs preserved, as do we all. But there's opportunity to develop the area around it, to supplement, augment, to make that overall area an attractive area for people beyond those who just come for the benefits of the springs. And I think the plan is a solid one. I think all city commission supports that vision, as does city management. And now it's a matter of getting the job done.
Well, I got to tell you, I just looked down at the clock. I got to get off the air or I'm going to get us in trouble. But I appreciate you both coming on. Joe Luke, thank you so much. Hold on one second. This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio saying thanks. Join us on Monday for another great show, and we'll talk to you soon. Be safe on the way home. Bye-bye now. So I'm off the air. I'm still going to stay on live for a few more minutes here. Jill, I
Well,
love.
can I speak to those,
Sure,
please?
sure.
He's absolutely right about Price Boulevard. I mean, we've already got the property secured for the stormwater drainage. The plan is in place. We just didn't have the money. So this is the way we got the money. So Price Boulevard will be put in place just ASAP. Warm Mineral Springs, I totally agree with his statement that there needs to be a temporary opening as soon as possible. The debris has been cleaned up. The water has been cleared out. New ropes have been put in. The management company and the city administration have sat down. They've got an attorney that is drafting an addendum to the contract. And so we're just, I mean, waiting for the trailer. Probably the longest wait is going to be asking FPL to come hook up the trailer's electric. That is probably going to be the biggest hurdle. And I've reiterated to them, let them know that this is a recovery thing, not just a new hookup. This is a recovery issue, so they'll hasten the process of hooking up the electric. So it's not that people have just sat still. We are working on it, but there is legal aspects that you have to do. The P3 will come back again on the 22nd. That is the next step in that P3 ordinance and process. We've never done that process before. So there has been some hiccups of understanding how it needed to be interpreted. But I believe those hiccups have been resolved, and the 22nd should set us back on course to get that P3 going. There's even a comp plan change need to be done because that wasn't completed when the ordinance was put in place. So there's some work to be done on it, but I don't want to see that go any longer than 6 months. I am the only commissioner who goes there regularly. I think I'm the only one from even the past that goes there regularly. That is a sacred place to me. And I totally understand those 120,000 that attend it yearly. It is a moneymaker, nearly $1 million this past year. And my say is even if we have to rent the trailer city-wise and it's $1,500 a month, so what? Look at what you're going to get back in the the ticket prices. That's a no-brainer. You get it in for the people first because that's the right thing. And then you handle the P3, but get that thing open as soon as possible, please.
I've got one more question or one more little statement from Chuck, and it's 80 million for less than 3 million. I'm assuming that's what he's looking at budget wise, expenditures. And I'm not going to go to Phil on this. I'm going to stick with you, Jill.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of addressed this just a few minutes ago in what your belief is, but I want to look at this a little different from another angle. Take our parks out, take our pool out, take Warm Mill Springs out. What do we have?
You have a boring city. You don't, I mean, you take anything out of parks and you're not providing amenities basically to the families. But you take Warm Mineral Springs out, you have taken out the history of not only the county, the city, but the state and actually all of the North American continent. That is an ecological treasure. So no, that cannot be removed at all. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be cared for. The P3 company coming in will take it where it needs to be.
Here's the thing. The reason I said that wasn't related to the 80 million. Um, it it was really related to if we just did those three things. Seriously, uh, what do we have? We have land. That's what we have. We don't have any other. We
No,
don't have coastal frontage. We don't have big water frontage. We don't have lakes. We don't. We have ponds. All right. Let's not joke about what we
in
have.
stormwater and retention ponds, it's not natural.
Right.
So
And it's these. This is a and as much as I have thrown my arms in the air over Warm Rill Springs, it isn't because I want it gone. It's because I want something done with it.
tell me,
And
I've been there for 15 years. I was ready to quit my job at Patriot within the first year so I could help run Warm Mineral Springs. I saw the treasure that it was and what it can be. I saw the sacredness. I saw the health and well-being of it. And it's been close to 15 years, 13 years that I have been waiting for this process to get in place.
there are so many things that need to be addressed and need to be focused on. And while Warm Rill Springs is one of those things, we have many others. I look at Price Boulevard not as the post hurricane, oh my God, we got to do something. Sorry, I'm that guy who's been saying we should have done something 15 years ago when we knew this was going to happen to us.
It was in the plan. I have got the plans for Price Boulevard right behind me on that shelf. In 2007, it was supposed to have been a 3-lane before it got developed to a 4-lane. If you remember, though, in 2007, everything was at the height, and here comes this crashing recession. So at the city at that point in time, they pulled back. We don't have the money. So we're ending up where we are, having to do what we are doing because it wasn't done according to the plan.
Well, I don't want to see 3 lanes. I want to see 4 lanes. It's a boulevard. Boulevards are 4 lanes. We are outgrowing 3 lanes yesterday.
Well, it's designed to be the 4.
Yeah,
with that center turn with some beautiful cobble work. But the plan was to expand it as the community grew, and it wasn't done as it grew. So we ended up with a failed road system. And the reason that the LOS, the service level, is at a D for roads is so that you're not constantly fixing up roads that are still at a B or a C. You know, you can still have a road that's D that's traversed, but when it fails gets an F the way that Price does, look at what we're having to do. We're having to find the money to get this done. If you had a higher level of service on all the other roads, you're trying to find money for all these other roads that haven't even failed yet.
Right.
So that is why it's at that level of service.
I have to tell you, John, one thing I've come to appreciate as I get more and more involved in government, you know, as I'm ready to start to serve. It's easy to get caught up in the regular routine of day-to-day governance and management of a city. I think it's important, and I think we do have the right people in place to start creating a perspective, a macro perspective on where the city needs to go. We're going to need new roads. We're going to need more than what we've got. This city is not going to cap out at 80,000 people. We're going to be 120, 130, 150,000 person city. What we've got is not going to be adequate. And if we don't start planning it and strategizing as to what we're going to do on a macro scale, we're going to find ourselves up
Well,
against the pressures all along. And that started.
Well, that's the shift that has gone on since Jerome has been in. It's always been, we're afraid of spending money. We're afraid of obtaining the money. We're afraid of doing this or that. We've got to cut the millage. We've got to cut the budget. Well, when you do it and you're growing, you're going behind. And so it was always this, we're going to put a Band-Aid on something instead of actually, as Phil was talking about, keeping on this schedule, keeping the roads maintainable as they should have done in 2007. But with Jerome, you've got the pillars. You're looking at those schedules. You're setting that future, that look to the future, and you're keeping your eye on it. You're figuring out how to get there for the future. And that build out is 267,000 people in this city.
It's an investment in the future of Northport. That kind of visionary thinking has to go on now. It really does. And I see that.
We are too big. We are too big now not to look to the future.
And I think that was, I'll tell you this, that was also something that I considered a defining issue in the campaign that nobody really focused on. Okay, you had a candidate, me, who sees that, a growing city. And I said it to so many people who came to the tents, who talked to me about, the economics of our city and the tax, the tax burden they felt. And people needed to realize this is a growing city. We are not a capped out city. We're not under control growth like Sarasota. We have 104 square miles and plenty of time to grow. And people keep coming here because we're so attractive. We are going to have to continue to provide services to all these people. It is going to increasingly cost us more to do so. If we don't build economically the right way, it's going to fall on the backs of residential taxpayers. We are going to have to build out our city to sustain and cope with this growing population. And it takes real pros. And we finally have a city filled with professional people. It took years to fill these spots. If I hear one more time, we fill 50 spots. My God, we hired 50 people. What are we doing? We should be cut and cut and cut. I mean, for goodness sakes, some of those positions sat open for years trying to get filled. We finally have a team, and we still have more to go to really launch ourselves into the future. And thank God the leadership. I think the present commission, I think staff and management in this city are all share this vision. I'm excited. That's the biggest reason why I ran, because I want to participate in this. The next 5 to 10 years will set the next 50 to 100 years for the city of Northport.
That's the biggest reason I hate leaving, because I still want to do.
That's right.
There's a lot of stuff still to do, and we're at the point where we can figure the things out and we can look at the pathway, and it's exciting to me to be around a group of people, a team that works toward that goal. It's awesome. It is awesome. And though the city is in a whole lot better shape than when I came in, even in policies, procedures, things like that, they didn't exist. Oftentimes it was a good old boy system that just interpreted however they wanted to. So you have to protect yourself legally with processes and procedures. That has even developed and gotten where it needs to be to interpret, to have the environment addressed, and don't think that it's just development, but you have to address the environment too. So we're finally getting our heads wrapped around all of these things, and Jill's got to step away. But you're not going to shut me up. I'm going to be sitting in that seat.
Right. You'll have more freedom and influence than you probably did sitting on the commission.
Well, the largest
Luke unchained.
Yeah, the largest decrease is I'm not in the office able to have meetings with administration, brainstorm, because that's what I do when I'm in meetings with them. We're brainstorming. What about this? What about that? I think this, I think that. What do you think about this or that? That I won't be part of anymore. That's the part I'll miss. I love brainstorming. Finding conclusions and solutions. I love it.
And really, I hope that the listening audience appreciates everything you've done and the vision that you've had, that you've laid out effectively with others. Uh, you know, I've been here 24 years, and I've watched people talk. I've watched people get elected, and then they talk. There's a difference between talking and doing. Um, there's something to be said about being able to, go live on Facebook and the radio and be held to that standard of response. We didn't have, truthfully, we didn't have this 24 years ago. I think this changes things now. We're getting information out at a different clip now. The city is really pushing public works, the recycling
Transparency.
program. I've learned, I say this because the hurricane really taught me how valuable doing the show with all of the services that we have, because at one point I was able to talk about our canals and not have a guest on, tell people what was happening and why it was going on, because
Thank you.
4 years, the truth of the matter is, for 4 years, all this information has been readily available for the listening audience. And what's really, really cool about the whole process is that Phil and Victor and all 5 current sitting commissioners don't hesitate to get on this show. In fact, it's gone from, oh my gosh, the radio station, to, oh my gosh, the radio station. Oh my gosh, John, if you got an empty time slot, let's do it. That ability to pull commissioners in and staff and different aspects of our city and surrounding communities, by the way, has just, there's so much power in conversation. And we've literally just stayed on an extra, 5 or 8 minutes, maybe 15 at this point, but we do this a lot. And it's because people like you, and the other commissioners have decided that this is really where it's supposed to happen. Is the verbiage is supposed to get out. We're supposed to crush bad information. We're supposed to focus on reality of what Jill just said or what Phil just said. Don't listen. And it's the same thing I say about FEMA. If your neighbors are getting rejected from FEMA, tell them to go apply again. 3 no's, get 3 no's, and go sit down with someone. That's what we do on this show. We actually sit down and we dive into these problems and we dive into these conversations. This is relentless communication, and that's what you should be doing with your homes. Don't pay attention to the naysayers. Don't pay attention to the people that are telling you you can't get help. The phone's always open. How many meetings have you taken, Jill, over your, what, 5 years?
Yeah, 5.5 almost to the day.
Yep. And so 5 years into this, it's that your door is open. You're able to take those phone calls from people.
It's my door has always been open, and the phone always available. Uh, when I ran, the first term was for the year and a half, and then the second one was for 4 years. But both elections, I did not have a topic, an issue, a promise, a platform, nada. I came in just saying I would do my best to do the right thing. I would look at the city as a whole and simply do the right thing. And I pray to God that the people that I have represented um, can say that that was what I came in and I was able to accomplish for the whole of the city, do the best and do the right thing, and not be presenting some agenda or pushing some topic or have a complaint about something that I'm coming into, to change or to see somebody get fired or whatever. No, I came in to do the right thing, and I tried as hard as I could.
Well, we love you. And I know that you've got to do some things for you and your family.
So I'm
And
going to need a lot of prayer for this one.
you are. And, you have, we joked with one of our friends because yeah, he not only takes a village, he's got like a whole county of villages. But you are blessed because you have affected so many people who thinks so highly of you and really only want you to have great success at the end and make sure that you can get on the air. No, we're off the air, but we're on Facebook. But
Hello. uh, that is one thing that, to me, an elected official is a representative of the city. And so I try to engage and represent the city out. I tried to do it professionally. I tried to do it with as much class as I could, with as much respect. And I just so appreciate the reception that they gave me out in these other areas. There's a lot of respect for Northport. We are no longer that redheaded stepchild that people talked about in the past. We are a mover and a shaker. And what we have in motion after this past year, year and a half, we're unstoppable. Uh, Ian, yep, we're going to have to continue to move forward while we recover. So we've got to come up with some really good strategies, but we cannot waver in this forward motion that we got. So keep it going, keep going out. Phil, I'm trusting that you will keep those coals burning. And I mean, you're going to be loved by everybody that you go to, but go out and represent the city to the best of your ability.
And I will. And I do want to say, for the record, for everyone who's still out there listening, Commissioner Jill Luke has set the bar for public service. And it is a bar that all of the existing commissioners, all the future commissioners, me included, should strive to meet. She has built and carved her legacy in the city. She's loved by everybody. She has huge shoes I will have to try to fill, and I will work as hard as I can to do so. She has become a dear, dear friend. She'll continue to be so. And I'll tell you, she will always remain a dear friend to everyone in this city. So thank you for your service, lady.
All right. Well, I'm not leaving the city. I am always here for backup, for history, for education, whatever. I'm still a lover of my city, my community, and the citizens who reside here. I thank them for their support. I thank them for their love, and we're just going to keep shining that light in the city of Northport.
That's right.
And Phil, I'm going to tell you congratulations. I also want to say, Victor Dobrin, I appreciate the fact that you came on the show. I really appreciate the fact that you volunteered to run. Uh, I'm just happy that we had two people representing the city of Northport for that seat versus no one, or one individual. It's going to make it a better place. You're going to do a great job. I have the utmost confidence in you, and I look forward to having you on the show more, as you get your feet wet in this lake that you're about to jump into. I just hope that you have a life raft.
That's me.
There you go. There you go. And I look forward to coming on again, John. You know that. I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to speak out on the issues, and I hope that more and more people listen to the show and get involved and step up to help our city. So
Absolutely.
thank you again, sir.
Well,
All right.
I understand that there are people who can't, and I love them just as much, and I will hear them all that I can too. Thank you to all of those who do volunteer and step up, but become as educated as you can. And that way you've got a relationship with your elected officials where you can go to when an issue does arrive.
You guys have a blessed day. Enjoy yourself. Jill, I know hugs away. You know that.
Yes.
Phil, get in there, do your thing. I'm proud of you. It is not an easy thing to go through the gauntlet of an election process. And kudos to both guys because both of them survived it. No matter, and I say this because I truthfully, with 50% of the vote on both sides of this, there are people out there that need to be pulled together and educated, and not just with fluff. And you that are out there listening that have already made your mind up about everything, do yourself a favor. When you're locked into a decision so firm and so hard that everything else doesn't seem to matter, you might be wrong on at least half of it. Open up your arm, open up your hearts, open up your minds, embrace where we're at. Let the chips fall where they may. But if you don't learn to enjoy life where you're at today, just ask yourself why you're here. And that's all I got to go with. So we got a great town. We got a great environment. We've got great leadership. We've got great resources. If you're having trouble with FEMA, be relentless with FEMA. Tell your neighbors that everything is about going and seeing them. Don't tell them it doesn't work. I will promise you, I've already started making it work and I have no damages. I'm just helping my past customers get through the system that is supposed to tell you no. That's life, by the way.
Well,
Go
if
ahead.
if somebody is reaching out to FEMA before they have gotten their estimate and their own insurance has come out, they're going to tell you no. FEMA has to see what the insurance has assessed it at and stuff before they will help. So if they went in early before that part was done, it's going to be a definite no.
Yep, that's the first no. But then you got to go through the process. And if you just throw your letters away and act like nothing is going to happen, I will promise you, nothing will happen. It's almost the same setup for your insurance company. If your insurance company is telling you, here's your check, just remember, you got to get everything repaired and your deductibles paid, and they have more money. You just have to go back and fight for it. So they're really telling you no on a little bit, but then you got to go back and you got to collect. Just keep in mind, this is where you fight for where you're at. Gee, think about that. The rest of the city of Northport is fighting for keeping our town intact before y'all got here and thought you were too good to be here.
Uh,
We're fighting to keep that too. Go ahead.
There's some people who, and I'm one of them, who believes that a vote for de-annexation should be an entire city and not just the people who want to de-annex. That is part of the statute, that it is only the people who de-annex. I will tell you fully, I have already written last year the legislators trying to get that statute changed. To me, that is vitally unfair. It should be, if it's the whole city voting to bring them in, it should be the whole city voting to remove them, because that piece of the city has become a vital part of the city and it affects everybody else. Now, if it didn't develop, if it wasn't becoming an urban area, then yes, I can see where it's justified of being de-annexed. But it fits every aspect of that statute. But the only thing of that statute that I believe is wrong, and I'm still going to be speaking with our legislators about it, that part needs to be changed because it affects an entire city, not just a small area of it.
Awesome. Phil, last words?
Last words. I look forward to serving this community. I look forward to serving the citizens of Northport. I'll do the best I can. I'll work the hardest I can. I'll do it with honesty. I'll do it with integrity, and I'll do it with dedication. And all I really want to be is a good public servant. So I thank you for the time on the show, John, and I'm sure it won't be the last.
Absolutely not going to be. Jill, love you. Good luck.
Love you,
If you
too.
need anything, let us know. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. You guys have a blessed night. It was a
You
pleasure
too,
talking
John.
with each and every one.
Happy Veterans Day. Thank you, veterans.
Veterans Day.
Veterans. Boom, boom. It's awesome. Keep it easy. Keep it cool. Keep it safe. And I'll see you on Monday. Bye bye now.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.